The kick landed on Emeka's shin. Sharp, sudden. He stumbled back, more from shock than pain. "I said stay away from me." Chinyere's voice was shrill, echoing across the mall. People stopped walking, heads turned, phones came out. She spat at his feet, the saliva landing on his polished leather shoe. "You dirty beggar, you think I need your help?" Her chest was heaving, her face twisted with something between rage and panic. Emeka just stood there, his hands hanging at his sides. The shopping bags in her cart were half empty, the self-checkout machine still beeping behind her. Payment declined. Payment declined. He'd only wanted to help, to pay for her groceries, to be kind to someone who once meant everything. But she was looking at him like he was trash on the street. The security guard was walking over. Fast. Someone in the crowd whispered, "Should we call the police?" Another voice, "He didn't even do anything." Emeka's hands were shaking, not from anger, from that specific hurt that comes from someone who used to whisper your name in the dark. Chinyere was still glaring at him, her finger pointed at his chest. "People like you need to know your place," she hissed. "Coming near me in public, embarrassing me. Look at you. Still poor, still pathetic." His throat felt tight. 5 years disappeared in a second. 5 years since she'd left without a word. Since he'd woken up to an empty closet and cold sheets. The store manager appeared, pushing through the crowd. "What's going on here?" His eyes landed on Emeka. Something shifted in his face. Recognition. "Mr. Okonkwo?" Chinyere's hand dropped. Slowly. "Mr. Okonkwo?" The manager's voice had changed. Respectful, almost nervous. "Sir, is everything all right? Do you need security to—" "I'm fine," Emeka said quietly. His voice was steady, but his heart was hammering. The manager nodded quickly. "Of course, sir. Whatever you need. We're so sorry for any disturbance." He shot a look at Chinyere. Her face had gone pale. That moment when reality starts to rearrange itself, when the ground beneath your feet feels less solid. Someone in the crowd said it, loud enough to hear. "Wait, is that Emeka Okonkwo? The real estate guy? He's worth millions." Another voice. "I saw him in Business Today magazine last month." Chinyere's eyes went wide. She looked at Emeka. Really looked this time. At his clothes, the tailored fit, the watch on his wrist, the quiet confidence in how he stood. Her knees felt weak. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be him. Emeka. Her Emeka. The one who used to wear the same 3 shirts on rotation, who'd worked as a security guard, who she'd left sleeping in that tiny room with the broken ceiling fan. That was 5 years ago. She'd walked out without saying goodbye because she couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't be poor anymore. Couldn't watch him struggle and drag her down with him. Her mother had said it plainly. "That boy has no future. You're wasting your best years." Her friends had agreed. Even her sister had pulled her aside. Chinyere, love doesn't pay bills. So she'd left. Found someone with money. Someone who could take her to nice places. Someone whose family didn't live in a I face you compound. She'd felt so free that first month. But now, staring at Emeka, freedom felt like the wrong word. Her rich boyfriend had left her 3 months ago, for someone younger. Someone whose family had connections his family wanted. She'd moved back in with her sister. Started lying about where she was on Friday nights, posting old photos to look happy. Today she'd come to buy food with the little money she had. Her card had declined. Again. And then Emeka had appeared like a ghost. She'd panicked. Seeing him brought back everything she'd tried to forget. The shame, the poverty, the feeling of drowning. So she'd lashed out, called him names, kicked him, spat at him, tried to make him small so she could feel big again. Except he wasn't small, not anymore. And she was the one on the ground. "Chinyere," Emeka said softly. She flinched. His voice was different. Calmer. Deeper. "I just wanted to help. That's all." The manager was still hovering. "Mr. Okonkwo, shall I have her removed?" Emeka shook his head. "No, just put her items through, on my account. Everything she needs." The manager nodded and hurried to the register. Chinyere's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The crowd was whispering now, phones recording. She wanted to disappear, to sink through the floor. Emeka looked at her one more time, not with anger, with something that looked like sadness. "Take care of yourself," he said. Then he turned to walk away. His shoes clicked on the polished floor. Each step felt like a door closing. She found her voice finally. "Emeka, wait." He stopped, didn't turn around, just stopped. "I didn't know," she said. Her voice cracked. "I didn't know you. That you were." She couldn't finish. What was she even trying to say? That she was sorry? That she wouldn't have kicked him if she'd known he was rich now? That thought made her feel sick. Emeka turned slowly. His face was unreadable. "Didn't know what, Chinyere? That I was worth your time now?" The words were quiet, but they cut deep. "That's not what I meant," she whispered. But they both knew it was. The crowd was watching, like this was a movie. The manager returned with her bags. "All paid for, ma'am. Mr. Okonkwo's account." She took them with numb hands. Emeka was still standing there, still looking at her with those same eyes that used to watch her sleep 5 years ago. In his mind, Emeka was back in that one-room apartment, the night before she left. She'd been quiet, distant, her head on his chest, but her mind somewhere else. "Are you okay?" he'd asked. "I'm fine," she'd lied. He'd known it was a lie, but he'd been too tired to push. Too tired from working double shifts. Too tired from studying at night. Too tired from trying to build something from nothing. When he'd woken up, she was gone. Her clothes, her shoes, the cheap perfume she used, all of it, just gone. He'd called 17 times that first day. By the second day, her number was disconnected. He'd made food for 2 out of habit that first week, reached for her in bed, stared at the empty space, and wondered what was so wrong with him. His friend had asked what happened. "She left," Emeka had said, and his voice had cracked. He didn't cry, just stared at his hands and wondered if he'd ever be enough for anyone. The security guard job had felt even more suffocating after that. Standing in that booth, the borrowed laptop where he tried to teach himself skills, his supervisor catching him and threatening to fire him. Emeka had begged, actually begged. The pity in the man's eyes had burned worse than anger. But something had shifted in him that night. A hardness, a determination. If being poor meant being left, then he wouldn't be poor anymore. Not for her, for himself. Because he was tired of begging. Tired of being looked through instead of at. Tired of feeling like he didn't matter. He'd studied until his eyes burned. Taken every freelance job he could find. Failed, got back up. Failed again. Learned. 1 year after she left, he made his first 50,000 naira from a client. He'd held the cash and just stared at it, called his mother and sent her money. She'd cried. He'd bought himself rice and chicken and eaten alone in his room. He'd thought about calling Chinyere. His finger had hovered over her name, but he didn't call. By year 3, he'd quit the security job, opened a small office, hired 1 employee. The first day walking into his office had felt unreal, like he was playing pretend. A client had mentioned Chinyere once, said she was engaged to some banker. Emeka had smiled and said, "Good for her." His chest had felt tight for days. Now, standing in this mall with cameras pointed at them, Emeka felt that same tightness. "You left when I needed you," he said quietly. Chinyere's tears started falling. "I don't blame you for that. People make choices, but I didn't become this for you. I became this for me." The words felt both true and incomplete. Part of him had wanted to prove her wrong, to show her she'd made a mistake, but that anger had faded somewhere along the way. Now there was just distance, like looking at a stranger who happened to have a familiar face. "I'm sorry," Chinyere whispered. "I was wrong. I was so wrong." Her voice was breaking. "I was scared and selfish, and I destroyed the best thing I had." Emeka nodded slowly. "I believe you." He did. He could see it in her eyes. The regret, the shame, the understanding of what she'd lost. "But I'm not that person anymore," he continued. "The one who would take you back just because you're sorry now. The one who would ignore how you treated me just now because you didn't know who I'd become." His voice was still gentle. That was somehow worse. Chinyere would have preferred him yelling. Anger she could fight against. Kindness left her defenseless. "I hope you find peace," Emeka said. "I really do. I hope you figure out what you want, what matters. I hope you find someone who treats you well and who you treat well too." He meant it. Standing there, looking at her crying face, he realized he didn't hate her, didn't even really feel much of anything except a dull ache, like an old injury that still twinges when it rains. Chinyere couldn't speak. The tears were coming too fast. Every kind word from him felt like a knife, because she knew she didn't deserve kindness from him. She'd kicked him, spat at him, called him trash, and he was paying for her groceries and wishing her peace. The crowd was starting to disperse. The show was over. Emeka picked up his shopping basket, 3 items: bread, eggs, expensive coffee, normal life. He nodded once at her and walked toward the checkout, his back straight, his steps steady. Chinyere stood there, holding her bags, surrounded by strangers who'd witnessed her shame and understood something heavy. You don't know what you have until it's gone. Everyone says it. But you don't really understand it until you're standing in a mall, watching the best thing you ever had walk away from you for the second time. Except this time, you're the one being left behind. 2 weeks later, Emeka sat in his office, floor-to-ceiling windows, city spread below. A business meeting had just ended well. His company was growing. He should have felt satisfied. Mostly, he felt tired. He still thought about that day in the mall, about her face, about how seeing her had brought everything back. The poverty, the shame, the nights lying awake, wondering why he wasn't enough. Success hadn't erased those memories. It had just cushioned them, made them easier to carry. He pulled out his phone, scrolled to her name in his contacts. He'd kept it all these years, some part of him always wondering, always hoping maybe. His finger hovered over delete. Then he pressed it. 2 seconds, and she was gone from his phone. The grief of it lasted through his morning coffee. Then he made lunch and went back to work. Chinyere started therapy the week after the mall, told the therapist everything: the leaving, the regret, the kick, the spit, the look on his face. I destroyed something irreplaceable, she said. The therapist asked what she learned. Chinyere thought for a long time. That love isn't about what someone can give you. It's about who they are when they have nothing to give. She got a real job, stopped posting fake happiness online, started being honest with her sister about where she was. Some nights she still cried. Some mornings she woke up and felt okay. She wrote Emeka a letter she'd never send, an apology, an explanation, a goodbye. She folded it and put it in a drawer. Maybe closure isn't a conversation. Maybe it's just learning to live with your choices. Learning to forgive yourself even when the person you hurt never will. They never spoke again. The city was big enough for 2 lives to exist without touching, and maybe that was okay. Maybe some chapters close quietly. Emeka got through his Tuesdays. Chinyere got through hers. They both kept living, kept healing, kept becoming people they could stand to be. And sometimes, on random afternoons, they'd both pause and remember, not with anger anymore, just with that dull ache of what used to be. And then they'd keep moving. Because that's what people do. They survive, they grow, they let go, one day at a time.